some people garden for the beauty of it, and there's no denying that anybody that has a garden will tell you having a garden is a beautiful thing, especially if it's lush and growing full like this garden right here. All right. Nothing wrong with that. Some people garden for the health of it. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Especially that's the best reason to garden, really. One of the best reasons. So many foods that you can grow yourself that you don't have to rely on a system to grow for you. All right, because you don't know what they're feeding you. You might be able to read labels. That's great. That's a step up for most people. But if you're growing your own food, you don't have to read labels because you know how you grew it. You know whether you grew it organically or whether you used this chemical fertilizer or that organic fertilizer or no fertilizer at all. You know how you grew the food, so you don't have to read labels. All right, many people will tell you. They'll have this list, and I respect our elders and I respect our healers, but they'll have this list of what you shouldn't be eating. All right, and it's one of my pet peeves. When I first started eating, considering becoming vegan, my question was, well, where can I get this food from? And everybody kept sending me to these stores, Trader Joe's, My Organic Market, Yes Organic Market, all these stores, right? So, being from a hood in a lower income area, I'm looking at the prices of this stuff. And I'm like, that's kind of unrealistic, man. I can't afford that. I can't afford it. I mean, I might be able to afford it if I, sell my house. or don't drive or something like that. But some would argue, well, what's more important, your health or a car? 50-50. Half a dozen in one hand, half a dozen in the other. All right. So growing food for the health of it is also a noble cause. But if you're African American or black or brown or whatever you consider yourself to be, even if you're white, you understand that you can't depend on a system. You understand that there's always a possibility, especially the more you study and the more you read, listen to the news, even if you just observe what's going on around you, that there's always a possibility for a shit hits the fan situation. In a shit hits the fan situation, you want to determine what plants you can grow. All right, this is survival gardening. To me, is the most important. Even more so than the health of it. Survival gardening is the most important type of gardening because you want to be able to feed yourself if you don't have access to all of these foods of My Organic Market, and you don't got people shipping food in from South Florida and California, which, by the way, a lot of your people that are giving you garden tips, they come from these areas, and they will brag about how they can grow pretty much year-round, anything they want to grow, almost. But most of us, or many of us, don't live in areas that you can grow year-round anything that you want to grow. All right, so if we want to grow tomatoes, we start in May and we end in about September in our area. And some people have a shorter growing season than that, so they got to get hybrid tomato plants that'll grow in a shorter period of time. All right, so as you're learning how to garden, you want to consider your area, what can grow in the environment in which you live, not somebody that lives in South America where the temperature is pretty much, warm almost all year round, or even somebody that lives in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, what you do want to do, much like Marcus Garvey was trying to do, is, link up with your people that's in different parts of the world so that you can ship foods in. And you can also ship foods out. You can establish a trade network. So if collard greens and kale grow more naturally in my area, but oranges or whatever grow more naturally in somebody else's area, and we have a connection, a relationship, a trade network, they're giving us oranges and we're giving them collards and kale. All right. But since that's not what's happening right now, we're talking about survival. And the birds are going wild because they're trying to get over here and get this food that I set out for them. Remember, the birds are my pest control team, if you will. They come in, I I give them some bird seed, wild bird seed, and when they finish eating that, they eat all the worms and things that are around. All right, they getting real close over here. They might be comfortable with me now, y'all. If y'all see one land on my shoulder, you know, we like that now. But anyway, survival gardening is the most important type of gardening. You might see these vines over here. These vines have grown probably about 12 feet, all right, and they're sweet potato vines. And we told you before that sweet potato greens are actually edible. We showed you, we ate them on camera. I don't want to keep pulling the leaves because the sun is starting to damage them. The afternoon sun, and we're going to have another scorcher. So I'm going to leave these leaves on here right now, but go back and look at my videos. I've done a couple of them over the years about edible sweet potato greens. All right, so that's one of your survival crops that a lot of people not going to talk about. They talk about the sweet potato itself, but the greens are as sweet or almost as sweet as the sweet potato. It's really quite tasty. You don't have to cook them. You can eat them right off the vine. All right, another plant is your blackberry plant. Yes, that is a survival crop as well. Of course, you're growing it for the blackberries, the berries. But many people don't know or didn't know that you can also use these leaves in teas, and some people say you can even eat the leaves that are Native American ancestors, so-called Native American ancestors, use these leaves. All right, they use them in teas, and some, like I said, even ate the leaves. So blackberry plant is also a survival crop. Now, believe it or not, I don't want to take the time to take the camera over to the other side, but I don't have any over here either. But kale is actually a survival plant. I know I talk about a lot about collards and how those are survival crops, but I grow collards and kale. Actually got a collard tree that's growing. Got a few of them. But the collard tree is a hybrid. It comes from Africa. Has its roots in Africa. Believe it or not, I know we all hear that the collards was first cultivated in Rome and Greece, but you know that everything right in that Mediterranean area, they were influenced by the superpower of the day. And before Greece and Rome were superpowers, you had Egypt and Ethiopia and Carthage that were superpowers in Africa. So they influenced Greece and Rome. So whenever you see something that says, well, this is Greek, Greek oregano, or Italian parsley, or something like that, come on now. Everything is right there. So if you were growing it on one side of the Mediterranean, 9 times out of 10 you were growing it on the other side of the Mediterranean. It's just another white supremacy. It's the white supremacy language. I have to say that, because whatever we get into, whatever we tend to study, we always try to trace it back to some white guy, or white woman, but mostly white guy, and we repeat the name over and over and over again so that we can continue to worship something other than ourselves. Okay, we talk about socialism, and you trace it back to Karl Marx, where all he did was study the people that were practicing socialism, and then he put a name on it, and we said that Karl Marx is the father of socialism. Really, stop it. So when you start studying gardening, then you're going to see all these white people's names on there, and they're the experts. But then you see other folks. There's a Chinese American guy. He goes around the world. He doesn't take all the credit, right? He's showing you what these other folks are doing and how successful they have been in growing food in arid climates. But then when you see a white person doing it, now they become this world master. You know, they know everything there is, and they are the oracle of gardening around the world. Okay, stop it. Stop it. I'm not saying not to get information from wherever you can get it from, but always do your own research, always do your own study. I remember in the early 90s when I was listening to all of the health experts. The health experts were saying, cut this out your diet, cut that out your diet. No problem. I don't have a problem with that. Cut this stuff out your diet. I couldn't do it at the time. So one health expert in particular that I respected then and still respect was Dick Gregory. And yeah, he said cut the stuff out your diet. But he also said if you're not going to cut it out your diet, at least pass it through. So I had to find out. I had to study and listen to folks and find out what herbs could help bring that stuff through. So when I found out the herbs that could do that, I didn't just read it and then share the information. I actually used it to bring the stuff out of my system because I wasn't at the level where I could get rid of this stuff. Okay, many things I've cut out my diet and are out of my lifestyle even, and some things are still in my lifestyle. So don't hear me saying I'm perfect. If you see me somewhere eating whatever that you may consider something that is sacrilege, that ain't me. Okay, but we're talking about survival gardening. So the blackberry plant is a survival plant. Of course, we grow it for the berries, but we can also eat and use the leaves after we've dried them as a tea. All right, it's quite bitter, but you can put what you need to put in it to lighten up the bitter taste. Maybe put some honey in there. I've heard people say they put honey in there. All right, but if you're just going to do it for medicinal purposes, the blackberry leaves are very high in antioxidants and vitamin C. All right, and tannins, if you want to look that up. All right. Some people will say you can't eat it. You can't eat it every day. Some people say you can eat it every day. Some people say there's no side effects. Some people say that there are side effects. So you just have to try it out for yourself. So we talked about the sweet potato greens, the blackberry leaves. Kale is a survival plant. We've been growing it over a year. And as many of you know, the eastern seaboard, or at least the D.C. area, from what I remember, had one of the worst snowstorms in its history. And the kale grew unprotected. The collards grew to a certain degree when it was a little bit of snow out there. The collards still survived. But I had to protect the collards in order for them to survive through the entire winter and through the extremes of the winter. The kale actually survived straight through, and they're thriving even right now, as hot as it's going to be in early August. Anyway, I didn't want to take up too much of your time. I've been a little wordy this morning, but I wanted to get as much information in as possible. I've also told y'all about turnips. Turnips is another survival crop. You can eat the roots and you can eat the greens. I don't recommend pulling roots because, like you see all these sweet potato greens here, if I pull the roots, that's the end of the greens. But if I can take off a plate of greens and the root's still there, putting off more greens. If you pull the root up, that's the end of its production. All right. Now, at the very end of the season, you can pull the roots up if the roots aren't going to grow anymore. Or you can just leave them in the ground and allow the soil to regenerate, to stay nutrient dense, if you will. All right, just leave them in there. They try to figure out why we have such a poor soil now. It's because we dig everything up. We leave it alone. Part of your crop rotation, and this is going to be another video, is going to be to leave it alone. So in one rotation, you might have some green beans, and then the next rotation in that area, you might plant your cruciferous vegetables, and then the next season, how about this? Just don't plant nothing. Let it rest. All right, and following the rest period, then you can plant your green beans, and then your brassicas following that again. That's another video. Just wanted to share with you the importance of survival gardening. It's more important than growing for the beauty of it. But when you grow your survival garden, your garden is still going to look beautiful. It's more important even than the health of it. Because all this food, you won't be able to obtain food in a shit-hit-the-fan situation from your brothers and sisters in Africa or South America or South Florida or California. You're going to have to be able to access your food readily. All right? So I know we spoiled in America, y'all. Just be honest. I'm talking about all people, brown, black, white. We are all spoiled in America. So we want it, we just go to the store. All right. We handle our health the same way. We want some greens, just go to the organic market, pick it up. All right, but we're assuming that these things are always going to be in place. Anyway, this was about survival gardening, and we'll touch on it a little more in future videos. This has been Dr. Peace.